going to talk about the heated seats that are optional on some of our vehicles. While component locations may vary from car to car and heat elements and switches may look different, they all function the same way. What we'll cover today is system components, system operation, some troubleshooting hints, and some tips about replacing heat elements. Basically, the seats work like this. Power comes from the fuse relay panel to the seat heater switch. When the switch is turned to the on position, it activates a control relay. The control relay then switches power from the fuse relay panel to the seat heater elements. The elements heat up just like they would in your electric blanket, and the seat gets warm. Now let's go back and take a closer look at these parts and see how they work. The switch rotates from its off position through 5 heating positions. The switch is a rheostat and works just like the dimmer switch on your headlights. The switch has 2 jobs. It sends a 12-volt signal to activate the control relay and a regulated voltage to the control relay to let it know which temperature you've selected. The control relay receives its power at terminal 86. This activates the relay. The regulated voltage from the heater switch goes to terminal P. The control relay switches power on and off to the heat elements via terminal H, depending on the resistance of the temperature sensor in the heat element and the temperature that you've selected with the switch. Each seat has 2 elements, one heating element for the seat cushion and one for the backrest. They're wired in series. Now the seat element for the seat cushion also has an NTC temperature resistor. This sensor compares the actual temperature of the heating element with the temperature that you've selected with the switch. If the temperature of the element goes higher than the temperature that you've selected, the control relay will switch off the voltage to the heat elements. If either the NTC resistor or one of the heat elements becomes inoperative, the seat will not heat. Let's go over to the car now. Mark can show us some of these component locations and also give us some good troubleshooting tips.
The control switches for the seat heaters are located here in the center of the dash panel. 2 switches are mounted in one housing. The top portion of the switch controls the driver's seat. The bottom portion of the switch controls the front passenger's seat. The control relays are located down here above the fuse relay panel. And again, 2 separate control relays are used. One control relay for the driver's seat and a second control relay for the front passenger's seat. On the Corrado, these control relays are mounted on a bracket and they're located below the rear window behind the right rear quarter panel trim. Be sure to check the repair manual microfiche for the location of the components for the car that you're working on. Now to get a quick idea whether the seat heaters are working properly or not, you can connect a VAT40 or its equivalent up to the battery and actually measure the current draw of each seat heater. Connect the positive lead of the VAT40 to the positive terminal of the battery and the negative lead of the VAT40 to the negative terminal of the battery. Now connect the inductive pickup around the negative battery cable. Turn the ignition on and turn the heater switch to its maximum heating position. The current draw should be between 4 to 6 amps for one seat. With both seat heaters switched on to their highest heat position, the current draw should be between 8 and 12 amps. Let's take a look at a couple things you can do if you have seat heaters that don't heat. The first thing is to locate a copy of the wiring diagram for the car that you're working on. Next, you should check the fuses in the fuse relay panel to make sure that they're okay. These simple steps can save you a lot of time. The next check is to turn the ignition on and then turn the seat heating switch to its highest position and after about a 1-second delay, you should hear the relay, the control relay, click on. Now if the control relay doesn't click, you should check the wiring from the fuse relay panel to the switch. If that's okay, then check the wiring between the switch and the control relay, and check the control relay itself. Now if the control relay did click when you began this check, the next thing to test is to see if you have power at the connector underneath the seat. There are many checks you can make at this connector underneath each front seat. The first thing that we'll want to do is to determine if the seat heaters are receiving power. We'll refer to the wiring diagram to determine which terminal to probe. We can use the adapters from our test adapter kit 1594. We'll want to connect to the power wire from the seat heater control relay and ground. Now, with the ignition on and our seat heater control switch in its maximum heating position, the multimeter should display vehicle voltage. If we don't get a voltage reading, then we'll have to check the wiring between this connector and the seat heater control relay. If the seat heaters are receiving voltage at this connector, the next thing we'll want to check is the heating elements in the seats. Again, we'll refer to the wiring diagram to determine which terminal to probe at this connector, which comes from under the seat. We can check the resistance of each heating element at this connector. What we'll want to look for is a resistance of about 1 ohm. Generally, if a seat heating element fails, it goes open circuit. Now once we've checked both the heating element in the seat cushion and the heating element in the backrest, we'll want to check the temperature sensor. The temperature sensor is part of the seat heating element for the seat cushion. What we'll want to look for there is a varying resistance. Again, we'll use our connectors from the adapter kit 1594, and by probing the correct terminal, we can measure the resistance of the temperature sensor. At a temperature of about 77 degrees Fahrenheit, the resistance should be about 7.8 kiloohms. Now as the temperature of the seat heating element goes up, the resistance of the temperature sensor goes down. Now you can refer to the chart on the tech card that comes with this video for more resistance readings. It's important to remember that the temperature sensor should never be open or short-circuited. Also, if either of the heating elements or the temperature sensor are inoperative, the seat heater will not work. Now, if the customer complains that the seat heater works, but the temperature can't be regulated, there are a couple other checks you can make. The seat heater switch can be easily checked by removing it from the dash, then removing the connector on the back of it. Then we can take these test adapters from our adapter kit 1594 and connect it between terminal 15 and, depending on which seat heater switch we want to check, we can connect it to terminal PF for the driver's seat or terminal PB for the passenger's seat. Now we can connect our multimeter to these test adapters. And we should get a varying resistance reading from the potentiometer inside the seat heater switch. It should go from about 0 ohms to approximately 500 ohms when the seat heater switch is in its maximum heating position. Now, if you don't get these varying resistance readings, the seat heater switch will have to be replaced. If the resistance readings are okay, then the problem could be caused by the temperature sensor in the heating element, and you can check this using the procedures we have just shown you. Now, if your diagnosis shows you that you have to replace a heating element, Buzz has some tips for you on these procedures.
The heat elements can be replaced individually. You'll find that some elements are retained by upholstery clips, while other elements are retained by upholstery clips and then glued down the side. If you have to remove an element that's been glued down the side, be careful not to damage the foam when you're removing it. If you can't remove the old element without damaging the foam, it's okay to place the new element over the old one. Well, that about does it. Here are the things to remember. First, get the wiring diagram for the car you're working on when you're troubleshooting. Check the fuses first when diagnosing seat heaters that don't heat. If either one of the heat elements or the temperature sensor are inoperative, the seat won't heat.